Thank you for joining us today for We Know Their Names, a virtual Srebrenica commemoration. My name is Admin Husic. I am a proud sponsor of the Bosnian American Professional Association. My immediate family and I lived in Srebrenica during the war, but evacuated prior to the genocide. My grandfather, 2 uncles, and a cousin could not leave in time and died in Srebrenica. My family immigrated to the United States 25 years ago. Today, I am an engineering professor and study ways to ensure future water quality and water security for all people, particularly those most vulnerable in society. The commemoration is important to me because it represents the resilience and the strength of the Bosnian people to overcome cruelty, hatred, and the tragic loss of human potential caused by those who seek to divide us. We have gathered virtually today to honor the victims and survivors of the genocide in Srebrenica that occurred in 1995 from July 11th through July 22nd. 8,373 Bosnian Muslims, primarily men and boys, were executed in the Srebrenica region of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And today, July 11th, we recognize this day as a day of mourning as we commemorate the Srebrenica genocide. Following the death of Yugoslavia's primary leader, Josip Broz Tito, Islamophobic ethno-nationalism continued to spread across the country. As Slovenia and Croatia declared independence, the control of military resources of the Yugoslav National Army became centralized in Serbia. The Islamophobic rhetoric and warmongering deeply troubled the residents of Bosnia and Herzegovina, leading to their desire for sovereignty in 1991. Despite a lack of international recognition for independence, the people of Bosnia and Herzegovina held a referendum in the spring of 1992 to affirm their quest for independence from the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. With the high voter turnout exceeding 60%, an overwhelming 99.7% of voters expressed their support for an independent Bosnia and Herzegovina. On April 6, 1992, Bosnia and Herzegovina received recognition as an independent nation. In response, ethno-nationalist Bosnian Serbs, with support from the Yugoslav National Army, which had centralized its power in Serbia, launched a military campaign to occupy the territory and targeted the Muslim civilian population. The Serb militia inflicted terror through resource deprivation, ethnic expulsion, mental, physical, and sexual torture, through concentration camp imprisonment, mutilation, sexual trafficking, and forced birthing. After 3 years of occupation, Srebrenica was overrun by Bosnian Serb forces under the leadership of General Ratko Mladic. Despite being designated as a safe area by the United Nations in 1993, UN peacekeepers who were responsible for the safety of the thousands of people who took shelter in Srebrenica effectively allowed Mladic and his forces to systematically separate Bosniak men and boys from Bosniak women and girls to be tortured, sexually assaulted, and/or executed. The aftermath of the Srebrenica genocide left deep scars on Bosnia and Herzegovina. According to the International Commissions of Missing Persons, of the 8,373 who were murdered in Srebrenica, 7,017 have been identified, while there are still over 1,000 missing. The genocide in Bosnia and Herzegovina as a whole displaced 2 million people and ended the lives of over 100,000. 80% of whom were Muslims. Between 20,000 and 50,000 women were sexually assaulted. Over 30,000 people, including men, women, children, and the elderly, were imprisoned in concentration camps. Despite the ongoing threats of violence and discrimination faced by survivors in Bosnia, their brave testimonies played a crucial role in pursuing justice. The International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia and the International Court of Justice recognized the events in Srebrenica as a genocide and took steps to hold some of those who were responsible accountable. Today, you will hear and see dozens of volunteers from around the world who have taken the time to read the names of the 8,373 Srebrenica genocide victims. While you may not know these names personally, we want you to take time to listen and/or read the names being recited. You may hear or see the same name multiple times, and it is not an error. You may hear or see the same age and name of the victims, and that is not an error either. Those were all individuals who died in Srebrenica. The genocide in Bosnia serves as a stark reminder of the horrors of war and the devastating consequences of ethnic hatred. July 11th is a vital day in preserving the historical record and countering denial and revisionism. By remembering and documenting the atrocities committed during the Srebrenica genocide, we confront the past and reject any attempts to distort or deny the truth. It stands as a collective commitment to truth-telling, justice, and accountability. And the first truth that must be spoken is a name. With our program today, we will know all 8,373 of their names.
Hilmo Salihovic, 71 years old. Hussein Salihovic, 50 years old. Huso Salihovic, 21 years old. Huso Salihovic, 29 years old. Huso Salihovic, 31 years old. Ibrahim Salihovic, 19 years old. Ibrahim Salihovic, 27 years old. Ibrahim Salihovic, 32 years old. Ibrahim Salihovic, 42 years old. Ibrahim Salihovic, 46 years old. Ibrahim Salihovic, 49 years old. Ibro Salihovic, 45 years old. Ismet Salihovic, 52 years old. Izet Salihovic, 20 years old. Izet Salihovic, 33 years old. Yasmin Salihovic, 20 years old. Yasmin Salihovic, 20 years old. Yasmin Salihovic, 33 years old. Yunus Salihovic, 48 years old. Yunus Salihovic, 33 years old. Juso Salihovic, 33 years old. Yusuf Salihovic, 54 years old. Kadir Salihovic, 25 years old. Kemal Salihovic, 42 years old. Kemo Salihovic, 15 years old. Kiram Salihovic, 23 years old. Lutvo Salihovic, 41 years old. Mehan Salihovic, 52 years old. Mehmet Salihovic, 55 years old. Mehmet Salihovic, 56 years old. Mehmet Salihovic, 60 years old. Mehmet Salihovic, unknown age of death. Mehmedalia Salihovic, 49 years old. Meho Salihovic, 42 years old. Meho Salihovic, 53 years old. Mersad Salihovic, 18 years old. Meshan Salihovic, 59 years old. Mesud Salihovic, 66 years old. Mevlid Salihovic, 22 years old. Mevlid Salihovic, 27 years old. Mevludin Salihovic, 30 years old. Mevludin Salihovic, 32 years old. Mevludin Salihovic, 35 years old. Mevludin Salihovic, 36 years old. Mevludin Salihovic, 42 years old. Mirsad Salihovic, 29 years old. Mirzet Salihovic, 18 years old. Mirzet Salihovic, 22 years old. Mirzet Salihovic, 24 years old. Muaz Salihovic, 39 years old. Muharrem Salihovic, 28 years old. Mujo Salihovic, 23 years old. Mujo Salihovic, 38 years old. Mujo Salihovic, 40 years old. Mujo Salihovic, 67 years old. Murat Salihovic, 81 years old. Muriz Salihovic, 20 years old. Mushan Salihovic, 60 years old. Mustafa Salihovic, 31 years old. Nasser Salihovic, 25 years old. Nejad Salihovic, 18 years old. Nejib Salihovic, 31 years old. Nevres Salihovic, 25 years old. Nevzet Salihovic, 34 years old. Nazir Salihovic, 57 years old. Nazir Salihovic, 62 years old. Niaz Salihovic, 33 years old. Niaz Salihovic, 35 years old. Nurif Salihovic, 43 years old. Nuria Salihovic, 42 years old. Nuria Salihovic, 56 years old. Nusret Salihovic, 39 years old. Osman Salihovic, 30 years old. Ragib Salihovic, 54 years old. Rahman Salihovic, 37 years old. Ramiz Salihovic, 41 years old. Ramos Salihovic, 17 years old. Ramos Salihovic, 20 years old. Ramos Salihovic, 46 years old. Ramos Salihovic, 48 years old. Ramos Salihovic, 52 years old. Rashid Salihovic, 50 years old. Rasim Salihovic, 17 years old. Rasim Salihovic, 19 years old. Recep Salihovic, 42 years old. Rejo Salihovic, 6 years old. Rejo Salihovic, 40 years old. Refik Salihovic, 29 years old. Ramiz Salihovic, 19 years old. Reshad Salihovic, 17 years old. Rashid Salihovic, 20 years old. Rashid Salihovic, 50 years old. Rauf Salihovic, 33 years old. Rauf Salihovic, unknown age of death. Rifet Salihovic, 42 years old. Rifet Salihovic, 47 years old. Riza Salihovic, 20 years old. Shaban Salihovic, 37 years old. Shaban Salihovic, 69 years old. Sabit Salihovic, 22 years old.
My name is Eva Stoor, and today I will be reading 100 names of the victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Sabria Salihovic, 32 years old. Shachir Salihovic, 58 years old. Sadet Salihovic, 24 years old. Sadik Salihovic, 22 years old. Sadik Salihovic, 30 years old. Sado Salihovic, 46 years old. Safet Salihovic, 21 years old. Safet Salihovic, 31 years old. Safet Salihovic, 42 years old. Safet Salihovic, 44 years old. Safet Salihovic, 45 years old. Safet Salihovic, 50 years old. Safet Salihovic, 53 years old. Shahin Salihovic, 67 years old. Sakib Salihovic, 18 years old. Sakib Salihovic, 32 years old. Sakib Salihovic, 46 years old. Salchin Salihovic, 55 years old. Salchin Salihovic, 60 years old. Salchin Salihovic, 68 years old. Salih Salihovic, 23 years old. Salih Salihovic, 27 years old. Salih Salihovic, 45 years old. Salih Salihovic, 49 years old. Salko Salihovic, 24 years old. Samir Salihovic, 22 years old. Samir Salihovic, 22 years old. Seyat Salihovic, 21 years old. Seyat Salihovic, 22 years old. Seyat Salihovic, 23 years old. Seyat Salihovic, 28 years old. Shecho Salihovic, 40 years old. Seydalia Salihovic, 21 years old. Seydalia Salihovic, 23 years old. Seydalia Salihovic, 24 years old. Seydalia Salihovic, 33 years old. Selman Salihovic, 44 years old. Senat Salihovic, 17 years old. Senat Salihovic, 35 years old. Senahit Salihovic, 20 years old. Senahit Salihovic, 31 years old. Sinan Salihovic, 31 years old. Smajo Salihovic, 32 years old. Sulejman Salihović, 20 years old. Suljo Salihović, 60 years old. Uzer Salihović, 55 years old. Vahdet Salihović, 36 years old. Fasil Salihović, 67 years old. Fejkas Salihović, 38 years old. Zaim Salihović, 58 years old. Zaim Salihović, 18 years old. Zekraja Salihović, 18 years old. Ziad Salihović, 26 years old. Ziad Salihović, 29 years old. Sigret Salihović, 20 years old. Zulfer Salihović, 40 years old. Zulfo Salihović, 55 years old. Zulfo Salihović, unknown age at death. Hashim Salmović, 27 years old. Reuf Salimović, 37 years old. Ibrahim Salkanović, 59 years old. Niyazia Salkanović, 19 years old. Abdullah Salkić, 40 years old. Abdurrahman Salkić, 27 years old. Abdurrahman Salkić, 61 years old. Adnan Salkić, 15 years old. Amo Salkić, 21 years old. Alija Salkić, 44 years old. Alija Salkić, 58 years old. Amir Salkić, 26 years old. Asim Salkić, 53 years old. Asim Salkić, 61 years old. Avdo Salkić, 49 years old. Azem Salkić, 29 years old. Aziz Salkić, 35 years old. Bayro Salkić, 16 years old. Bayro Salkić, 38 years old. Behaya Salkić, 21 years old. Bekto Salkić, 34 years old. Benjamin Salkić, 18 years old. Beris Salkić, 34 years old. Cemal Salkic, 24 years old. Djevat Salkic, 22 years old. Djevat Salkic, 24 years old. Ekrem Salkic, 43 years old. Elvis Salkic, 18 years old. Enes Salkic, 47 years old. Esset Salkic, 48 years old. Fadil Salkic, 43 years old. Fikret Salkic, 35 years old.
My name is Almedina. Today I'm reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Hussein Salkic, 41 years old. Ibrahim Salkic, 56 years old. Ibrahim Salkic, 60 years old. Ibrahim Salkic, 66 years old. Ibro Salkic, 59 years old. Ismet Salkic, 54 years old. Izet Salkic, 24 years old. Izet Salkic, 45 years old. Yusuf Salkic, 52 years old. Kasim Salkic, 39 years old. Mehan Salkic, 52 years old. Mehmet Salkic, 51 years old. Mehmet Salkic, 53 years old. Mehmet Aliya Salkic, 18 years old. Meho Salkic, 18 years old. Meho Salkic, 38 years old. Meho Salkic, 41 years old. Mesur Salkic, 25 years old. Meshan Salkic, 58 years old. Mevlid Salkic, 17 years old. Mevludin Salkic, 24 years old. Mirsat Salkic, 33 years old. Mirza Salkic, 16 years old. Mirzet Salkic, 24 years old. Muhammed Salkic, 17 years old. Muhammed Salkic, 27 years old. Muharrem Salkic, 39 years old. Munip Salkic, 16 years old. Munip Salkic, 35 years old. Mushan Salkic, 30 years old. Mustafa Salkic, 30 years old. Mustafa Salkic, 59 years old. Muzafir Salkic, 29 years old. Nejat Salkic, 32 years old. Nezir Salkic, 54 years old. Niyaz Salkic, 29 years old. Nizam Salkic, 42 years old. Nusret Salkic, 33 years old. Omer Salkic, 25 years old. Omer Salkic, 43 years old. Osman Salkic, 44 years old. Refik Salkic, 19 years old. Refik Salkic, 25 years old. Reshid Salkic, 45 years old. Rifet Salkic, 35 years old. Sabahuddin Salkic, 23 years old. Shaban Salkic, 49 years old. Shaban Salkic, 63 years old. Sadik Salkic, 44 years old. Saip Salkic, 20 years old. Sakip Salkic, 27 years old. Salih Salkic, 16 years old. Samir Salkic, 23 years old. Sead Salkic, 35 years old. Sebip Salkic, 16 years old. Seçan Salkic, 32 years old. Sedin Salkic, 21 years old. Seydalia Salkic, 23 years old. Seydalia Salkic, 29 years old. Seifo Salkic, 55 years old. Senat Salkic, 23 years old. Sheval Salkic, 31 years old. Sevdahed Salkic, 20 years old. Sevludin Salkic, 23 years old. Shida Salkic, unknown age at death. Sidik Salkic, 36 years old. Smajo Salkic, 21 years old. Shukriya Salkic, 53 years old. Suleiman Salkic, 37 years old. Zaim Salkic, 31 years old. Zaim Salkic, 33 years old. Zulfo Salkic, 29 years old. Niazia Salkovic, 19 years old. Rejo Salkovic, 61 years old. Zaim Salkovic, 31 years old. Hayrudin Sanjic, 35 years old. Himzo Sanjic, 32 years old. Huzo Sanjic, 35 years old. Yusuf Sanjic, 30 years old. Mevludin Sanjic, 40 years old. Mushan Sharanovic, 28 years old. Sadik Sharanovic, 26 years old. Shevkia Sharanovic, 52 years old. Mirsad Shulic, 20 years old. Abid Shecic, 35 years old. Akif Shecic, unknown age at death. Elvir Shecic, 14 years old. Elvir Shecic, 17 years old. Hazret Shecic, 20 years old. Ibrahim Shecic, 28 years old. Ibro Shecic, 40 years old. Idris Shecic, 43 years old. Idris Shecic, 43 years old. Ismet Shecic, 57 years old. Kemal Shecic, 26 years old. Mehmet Shecic, 60 years old. Mehmet Aliya Shecic, 16 years old. Muhammed Shecic, 32 years old. Ahran Shecic, 34 years old. Ahran Shecic, 50 years old. Osman Shecic, 29 years old.
My name is Indira Sultanic. Today I will be reading names of the victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Rashid Šečić, 42 years old. Sabahudin Šečić, 24 years old. Seydalia Šečić, 21 years old. Senahid Šečić, 39 years old. Ševko Šečić, 51 years old. Zahir Šečić, 36 years old. Abid Šehić, 52 years old. Alija Šehić, 64 years old. Meho Šehić, 41 years old. Mustafa Šehić, 22 years old. Nedžib Šehić, 38 years old. Ramiz Šehić, 26 years old. Sabrija Šehić, 28 years old. Šačir Šehić, 61 years old. Salim Šehić, 19 years old. Salko Šehić, 35 years old. Ševket Šehić, 31 years old. Mujo Šehomerović, 77 years old. Omer Šehomerović, 49 years old. Zijad Sejdić, 33 years old. Azem Sejdinović, 37 years old. Bego Sejdinović, 15 years old. Esed Sejdinović, 66 years old. Idris Sejdinović, 68 years old. Mehmedalija Sejdinović, 37 years old. Mirsad Sejdinović, 22 years old. Munib Sejdinović, 32 years old. Nesib Sejdinović, 28 years old. Nezir Sejdinović, 45 years old. Shaban Sejdinović, 33 years old. Sabit Sejdinović, 19 years old. Sejdalija Sejdinović, 48 years old. Selman Sejdinović, 25 years old. Senaid Sejdinović, 27 years old. Vahid Sejdinović, 18 years old. Abid Sejfić, 54 years old. Azir Sejfić, 27 years old. Rasim Sejfić, 38 years old. Adem Sejmenović, 71 years old. Alija Sejmenović, 46 years old. Almir Sejmenović, 16 years old. Bego Sejmenović, 57 years old. Hasan Sejmenović, 41 years old. Hasan Sejmenović, 65 years old. Ibrahim Sejmenović, 43 years old. Ismet Sejmenović, 38 years old. Mehmedalija Sejmenović, 46 years old. Ramo Sejmenović, 47 years old. Razim Sejmenović, 18 years old. Shaban Sejmenović, 48 years old. Senaid Sejmenović, 19 years old. Zaim Sejmenović, 21 years old. Abaz Selimović, 41 years old. Abid Selimović, 53 years old. Abid Selimović, 53 years old. Adem Selimović, 64 years old. Adil Selimović, 59 years old. Ahmo Selimović, 47 years old.
My name is Amanda Friedemann, and today I will be reading the names of victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Alija Selimović, 30 years old. Alija Selimović, 48 years old. Alija Selimović, 49 years old. Alija Selimović, 51 years old. Alho Selimović, 19 years old. Amir Selimović, 19 years old. Amir Selimović, 30 years old. Asim Selimovic, 31 years old. Avdia Selimovic, 28 years old. Avdo Selimovic, 58 years old. Avdullah Selimovic, 22 years old. Aziz Selimovic, 32 years old. Azmir Selimovic, 19 years old. Bafruddin Selimovic, 24 years old. Bayro Selimovic, 51 years old. Bayro Selimovic, 57 years old. Bayro Selimovic, 61 years old. Bechir Selimovic, 48 years old. Becho Selimovic, 67 years old. Behara Selimovic, 77 years old. Bekir Selimovic, 18 years old. Damir Selimovic, 17 years old. Durmo Selimovic, 61 years old. Jemal Selimovic, 57 years old. Jenez Selimovic, 16 years old. Jevad Selimovic, 27 years old. Elizabeth Selimovic, 33 years old. Elvir Selimovic, 20 years old. Elvir Selimovic, 22 years old. Enis Selimovic, 28 years old. Enver Selimovic, 30 years old. Fejo Selimovic, 39 years old. Ferid Selimovic, 48 years old. Habib Selimovic, 61 years old. Harudin Selimovic, 27 years old. Harudin Selimovic, 40 years old. Hakia Selimovic, 46 years old. Hakia Selimovic, 57 years old. Haris Selimovic, 27 years old. Hassan Selimovic, 21 years old. Hassan Selimovic, 24 years old. Hassan Selimovic, 43 years old.
My name is Tom Simpson. Today I will be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Hassan Selimovic, 47 years old. Hasib Selimovic, 38 years old. Hashim Selimovic, 27 years old. Hashim Selimovic, 61 years old. Hazim Selimovic, 15 years old. Huso Selimovic, 67 years old. Ibrahim Selimovic, 15 years old. Ibrahim Selimovic, 26 years old. Ibrahim Selimovic, 54 years old. Idris Selimovic, 41 years old. Ismet Selimovic, 49 years old. Izet Selimovic, 36 years old. Yunus Selimovic, 17 years old. Yuso Selimovic, 45 years old. Yuso Selimovic, 45 years old. Yusuf Selimovic, 48 years old. Yusuf Selimovic, 61 years old. Yusuf Selimovic, 62 years old. Kadir Selimovic, 39 years old. Kadria Selimovic, 53 years old. Mehmed Selimovic, 30 years old. Mehmed Selimovic, 61 years old. Mehmed Alia Selimovic, 66 years old. Meho Selimovic, 48 years old. Mensur Selimovic, 31 years old. Mesud Selimovic, 16 years old. Mevludin Selimovic, 34 years old. Midhat Selimovic, 33 years old. Mirzet Selimovic, 17 years old. Muhammad Selimovic, 43 years old. Muhammer Selimovic, 23 years old. Muyo Selimovic, 19 years old. Muyo Selimovic, 19 years old. Muyo Selimovic, 23 years old. Munib Selimovic, 30 years old. Muradif Selimovic, unknown age at death. Murat Selimovic, 44 years old. Muriz Selimovic, 36 years old. Mushka Selimovic, 39 years old. Nermin Selimovic, 19 years old. Nihad Selimovic, 17 years old. Niyaz Selimovic, 22 years old. Nisad Selimovic, 19 years old. Amer Selimovic, 16 years old. Amer Selimovic, 43 years old. Osmo Selimovic, 60 years old. Rahman Selimovic, 69 years old. Ramiz Selimovic, 22 years old. Ramiz Selimovic, 26 years old. Ramiz Selimovic, 27 years old. Ramiz Selimovic, 29 years old. Ramiz Selimovic, 44 years old. Ramiz Selimovic, unknown age at death. Ramo Selimovic, 36 years old. Ramo Selimovic, 53 years old. Ramo Selimovic, 57 years old. Ramo Selimovic, 74 years old. Rashid Selimovic, 59 years old. Rizo Selimovic, 30 years old. Rizvo Selimovic, 68 years old. Sabahuddin Selimovic, 31 years old. Shaban Selimovic, 40 years old. Sabit Selimovic, 21 years old. Sabria Selimovic, unknown age at death. Sakib Selimovic, 35 years old. Salih Selimovic, 40 years old. Salih Selimovic, 41 years old. Salih Selimovic, 58 years old. Sali Selimovic, unknown age at death. Salko Selimovic, 17 years old. Samir Selimovic, 23 years old. Sanel Selimovic, 18 years old. Saria Selimovic, 57 years old. Sayad Selimovic, 20 years old. Sayad Selimovic, 28 years old. Sefer Selimovic, 52 years old. Saeed Selimovic, 23 years old. Saifuddin Selimovic, 18 years old. Saifullah Selimovic, 50 years old. Salim Selimovic, 20 years old. Salim Selimovic, 43 years old. Salim Selimovic, 57 years old. Salim Selimovic, 62 years old. Shemso Selimovic, 33 years old. Senad Selimovic, 25 years old. Shevko Selimovic, 44 years old. Shevko Selimovic, 49 years old. Sinan Selimovic, 74 years old. Smail Selimovic, 34 years old. Shukriya Selimovic, 50 years old. Suleiman Selimovic, 61 years old. Suvad Selimovic, 16 years old. Uzer Selimovic, 65 years old. Uzer Selimovic, unknown age at death. Vahidin Selimovic, 22 years old. Vesil Selimovic, 49 years old. Mirsada Shenderovic, unknown age at death. Mehmed Sendo, unknown age at death. Nasib Sheta, 55 years old. Bego Shilikovic, 63 years old.
My name is Mirisa Nesic. Today I will be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Bulkan Shilkovic, 67 years old. Hasib Shilkovic, 50 years old. Huso Shilkovic, 57 years old. Kemal Shilkovic, 36 years old. Mushan Shilkovic, 39 years old. Nazir Shilkovic, 53 years old. Refik Shilkovic, 19 years old. Shaban Shilkovic, 67 years old. Sadif Shilkovic, 25 years old. Safet Shilkovic, 27 years old. Salko Shilkovic, 42 years old. Alija Sinanovic, 41 years old. Alo Sinanovic, 60 years old. Bakir Sinanovic, 24 years old. Edin Sinanovic, 16 years old. Esad Sinanovic, 34 years old. Hasan Sinanovic, 20 years old. Hasan Sinanovic, 43 years old. Hasib Sinanovic, 75 years old. Hashim Sinanovic, 21 years old. Hazim Sinanovic, 24 years old. Himza Sinanovic, unknown age at death. Ibrahim Sinanovic, 57 years old. Idris Sinanovic, 57 years old. Kazim Sinanovic, 60 years old. Kemal Sinanovic, 55 years old. Meho Sinanovic, 42 years old. Mensur Sinanovic, 21 years old. Mirzet Sinanovic, 18 years old. Muhammad Sinanovic, 54 years old. Muriz Sinanovic, 32 years old. Nurif Sinanovic, 59 years old. Nuria Sinanovic, 43 years old. Rahman Sinanovic, 70 years old. Rasim Sinanovic, 60 years old. Rejo Sinanovic, 37 years old. Rashid Sinanovic, 46 years old. Shaban Sinanovic, 49 years old. Sabit Sinanovic, 28 years old. Sadik Sinanovic, 19 years old. Safet Sinanovic, 68 years old. Shahbaz Sinanovic, 33 years old. Salchin Sinanovic, 57 years old. Salih Sinanovic, 20 years old. Samir Sinanovic, 20 years old. Samir Sinanovic, 24 years old. Sead Sinanovic, 45 years old. Shechen Sinanovic, 45 years old. Shamsa Sinanovic, 69 years old. Senad Sinanovic, 26 years old. Ziad Sinanovic, 26 years old. Adem Sircho, 31 years old. Senad Sircho, 18 years old. Abdullah Sirucic, 58 years old. Abid Sirucic, 54 years old. Fahrudin Sirucic, 29 years old. Faruk Sirucic, 37 years old. Hayrodin Sirucic, 32 years old. Muhudin Sirucic, 37 years old. Muyo Sirucic, 52 years old. Nejad Sirucic, 34 years old. Nuria Sirucic, 55 years old. Osman Sirucic, 64 years old. Safet Sirucic, 39 years old. Senad Sirucic, 26 years old. Muaz Shishic, 31 years old. Edo Skelagic, 65 years old. Inis Skelagic, 58 years old. Ibrahim Skelagic, 56 years old. Mehmed Aliya Skelagic, 57 years old. Mirsad Skelagic, 19 years old. Shahbaz Skelagic, 55 years old. Sakib Skelagic, 27 years old. Suad Skelagic, 17 years old. Sabahuddin Smailovic, 26 years old. Adem Smajic, 18 years old. Adem Smajic, 58 years old. Adil Smajic, 58 years old. Admir Smajic, 18 years old. Ahmo Smajic, 43 years old. Ahmo Smajic, 66 years old. Ayat Smajic, 28 years old. Alia Smajic, 52 years old. Alia Smajic, 57 years old. Alia Smajic, unknown age at death. Aljo Smajic, 46 years old. Almir Smajic, 20 years old. Aziz Smajic, 32 years old. Azmir Smajic, 18 years old. Bajro Smajić, 45 years old. Bajro Smajić, 45 years old. Chamil Smajić, 40 years old. Jevdet Smajić, 17 years old. Eshref Smajić, 27 years old. Fadil Smajić, 63 years old. Fajko Smajić, 37 years old. Ferid Smajić, 37 years old. Fikret Smajić, 25 years old. Fikret Smajić, 30 years old. Hayrudin Smajić, 57 years old.
My name is Kelly Zaney. Today, I will be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Salim Smajić, 25 years old. Habib Selimovic, 51 years old. Zahad Smajić, 30 years old. Bakir Slamavic, 59 years old. Hamda Smajić, 32 years old. Salomun Smajić, 51 years old. Barudin Slamovic, 12 years old. Ahmed Smajić, 24 years old. Kamal Smajić, 57 years old. Osman Smajić, 46 years old. Riza Smajić, 21 years old. Ahmed Slamovic, 37 years old. Yuso Smajić, 56 years old. Baro Slamovic, 43 years old. Adam Slamovic, 19 years old. Razid Smajić, 34 years old. Karam Smajić, 35 years old. Elvir Slamovic, 24 years old. Munib Smajić, 31 years old. Hassan Smajić, 55 years old. Nura Smajić, 28 years old. Slasen Smajić, 50 years old. Hasib Smajić, 46 years old. Fadil Smajovic, 26 years old. Samir Smajić, 21 years old. Enis Slamovic, 35 years old. Mustafa Smajić, 23 years old. Rizzo Smajić, 18 years old. Abid Slamovic, 57 years old. Zilda Smajić, 32 years old. Salil Smajić, 27 years old. Ahmadine Slamovic, 19 years old. Sulo Smajić, 54 years old. Asim Slamovic, 29 years old. Olram Smajić, 52 years old. Ahmed Smajić, 52 years old. Fadil Slamovic, 36 years old. Hasman Smajić, 19 years old. Ramo Smajić, 58 years old. Mahan Smajić, 59 years old. Moram Smajic, 33 years old. Nedza Smajic, 30 years old. Hassan Smajic, 29 years old. Adil Slamovic, 40 years old. Kamal Smajic, 18 years old. Sabit Smajic, 36 years old. Murat Smajic, 22 years old. Muhammad Smajic, 25 years old. Yusuf Smajic, unknown age at death. Asim Slamovic, 55 years old. Yunus Smajic, 35 years old. Elijah Slamovic, 46 years old. Izet Slamagic, 33 years old. Ibro Smajic, 40 years old. Hasso Smajic, 54 years old. Izzo Smajic, 31 years old. Salih Smajic, 49 years old. Sabit Smajic, 29 years old. Ismet Smajic, 22 years old. Seveko Smajic, 61 years old. Rajib Smajic, 55 years old. Sefo Smajic, 22 years old. Ibrahim Smalagic, 29 years old. Samil Smajic, 23 years old. Zahad Smajic, 17 years old. Mirsad Smajic, 26 years old. Amir Smalovic, 32 years old. Mavludin Smajic, 35 years old. Bego Solomovic, 18 years old. Munib Smajic, 37 years old. Aliyah Slamovic, 60 years old. And is Slamijic, 41 years old. Sakib Smajic, 35 years old. Hamza Smajic, 20 years old. Huso Smajic, 45 years old. Vihaba Slamagic, 59 years old. Hamno Slalovic, 38 years old. Admir Slamovic, 16 years old. Zahir Smajic, 28 years old. Siad Smajic, 33 years old. Mahmud Smajic, 45 years old. Abdullah Smailovic, 50 years old. Atif Smailovic, 55 years old. Meho Smajic, 75 years old. Ahmet Smailovic, 64 years old. Sayin Smajic, 65 years old. Sabin Smajic, 37 years old. Bekto Smailovic, 49 years old. Saljulia Smajic, 46 years old. Amno Smailovic, 36 years old. Ahmed Smajic, 39 years old. Ismet Smajic, 42 years old. Ezed Smailovic, 60 years old. Yusuf Smajic, 57 years old. Ramez Smajic, 48 years old. Husref Smayak, 17 years old. Sulyo Smayak, 58 years old. Usuf Smayak, 23 years old. Refik Smayak, 32 years old. Fadil Smalajic, 36 years old.
My name is Yasmina Rejovic. Today I will be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Jairo Smailovic, 19 years old. Halit Smailovic, 27 years old. Hamdia Smailovic, 46 years old. Hamed Smailovic, 19 years old. Hamed Smailovic, 53 years old. Hassan Smailovic, 23 years old. Hassan Smailovic, 36 years old. Hassan Smailovic, 55 years old. Hasib Smailovic, 19 years old. Hashim Smailovic, 62 years old. Hashim Smailovic, 73 years old. Hazim Smailovic, 29 years old. Hadib Smailovic, 29 years old. Ibrahim Smailovic, 35 years old. Ibrahim Smailovic, 36 years old. Ibro Smailovic, 37 years old. Idris Smailovic, 49 years old. Ismet Smailovic, 40 years old. Ismet Smailovic, 54 years old. Izzet Smailovic, 39 years old. Izzet Smailovic, 39 years old. Yakub Smailovic, 48 years old. Yusuf Smailovic, 40 years old. Yusuf Smailovic, 75 years old. Medo Smailovic, 52 years old. Mehmet Aliya Smailovic, 48 years old. Mensur Smailovic, 31 years old. Mersid Smailovic, 19 years old. Meshan Smailovic, 36 years old. Meshan Smailovic, 51 years old. Mesud Smailovic, 33 years old. Mihat Smailovic, 20 years old. Muhammad Smailovic, 19 years old. Mujo Smailovic, 36 years old. Mujo Smailovic, 48 years old. Mustafa Smailovic, 21 years old. Mustafa Smailovic, 35 years old. Nail Smailovic, 30 years old. Nail Smailovic, 23 years old. Nazif Smailovic, 58 years old. Nejad Smailovic, 16 years old. Nejad Smailovic, 19 years old. Nejad Smailovic, 21 years old. Najib Smailovic, 48 years old. Nermin Smailovic, 23 years old. Nazir Smailovic, 40 years old. Nazira Smailovic, unknown age at death. Nuria Smailovic, 17 years old. Nusret Smailovic, 17 years old. Nusret Smailovic, 22 years old. Ohran Smailovic, 34 years old. Omer Smailovic, 34 years old. Omer Smailovic, 45 years old. Omer Smailovic, 55 years old. Omo Smailovic, 41 years old. Osman Smailovic, 75 years old. Ramos Smailovic, 21 years old. Ramos Smailovic, 44 years old. Rashid Smailovic, 39 years old. Rashad Smailovic, 20 years old. Rashid Smailovic, 50 years old. Sabahuddin Smailovic, 17 years old. Shabania Smailovic, 39 years old. Sabit Smailovic, 42 years old. Sadik Smailovic, 58 years old. Safet Smailovic, 21 years old. Shahin Smailovic, 65 years old. Shahman Smailovic, 63 years old. Samedin Smailovic, 18 years old. Samit Smailovic, 19 years old. Samir Smailovic, 16 years old. Samir Smailovic, 18 years old. Samir Smailovic, 24 years old. Seyfuddin Smailovic, 37 years old. Senahit Smailovic, 24 years old. Sherif Smailovic, 39 years old. Sheval Smailovic, 27 years old. Sevdet Smailovic, 16 years old. Shevko Smailovic, 56 years old. Smile Smailovic, unknown age at death. Smajo Smailovic, 25 years old. Smajo Smailovic, 34 years old. Vahdet Smailovic, 19 years old. Vahid Smailovic, 17 years old. Zulfo Smailovic, 32 years old. Mujo Softic, 66 years old. Selmo Softic, 53 years old. Mehan Sokolic, 60 years old. Mehmet Sokolic, 49 years old. Mensur Spahic, 43 years old. Mustafa Spahic, 35 years old. Niyaz Spahic, 32 years old. Osman Spahic, 22 years old. Silvad Spahic, 32 years old. Hasan Špijodic, 24 years old. Bego Špijodic, 28 years old. Jamal Špijodic, 46 years old. Ferit Špijodic, 37 years old. Hayrudin Špijodic, 19 years old. Hayrudin Špijodic, 26 years old.
My name is Almina Mosic, and today I'll be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Hasima Špijodic, 22 years old. Mehmedalia Špijodic, 39 years old. Meho Špijodic, 22 years old. Musvet Špijodic, 24 years old. Nazar Špijodic, 38 years old. Refik Špijodic, 35 years old. Rifet Špijodic, 29 years old. Shaban Špijodic, 58 years old. Sadiq Špijodic, 31 years old. Seyed Špijodic, 19 years old. Samir Špijodic, 16 years old. Sedalia Špijodic, 27 years old. Sedo Špijodic, 34 years old. Senad Špijodic, 18 years old. Anto Stanic, 65 years old. Mosvet Stocevic, 30 years old. Ago Subasic, 63 years old. Hamdilia Subasic, 62 years old. Hamzilia Subasic, 38 years old. Ilmo Subasic, 50 years old. Puzo Subasic, 71 years old. Ibrahim Subasic, 57 years old. Kemal Subasic, 41 years old. Mesut Subasic, 20 years old. Mesut Subasic, 28 years old. Muhammad Subasic, 77 years old. Nirmin Subasic, 18 years old. Nirmin Subasic, 21 years old. Orhan Subasic, 57 years old. Rasid Subasic, 35 years old. Sabriha Subasic, 57 years old. Safid Subasic, 23 years old. Samsul Subasic, 28 years old. Senad Subasic, 27 years old. Olan Subasic, 61 years old. Almir Suchetsa, 21 years old. Abdullah Solmanchavic, 39 years old. Abdurrahim Solmanchavic, 32 years old. Adim Solmanchavic, 17 years old. Adil Solmanchavic, 46 years old. Akif Solmanchavic, 25 years old. Ayla Solmanchavic, 41 years old. Asim Solmanchavic, 28 years old. Asim Solmanchevich, 62 years old. Azim Solmanchevich, 40 years old. Aziz Solmanchevich, 34 years old. Azirm Solmanchevich, 19 years old. Bero Solmanchevich, 65 years old. Bego Solmanchevich, 27 years old. Damo Solmanchevich, 37 years old. Enis Solmanchevich, 21 years old. Esad Solmanchevich, 19 years old. Esnif Solmanchevich, 27 years old. Ferikte Solmanchevich, 41 years old. Harudin Solmanchevich, 53 years old. Hasib Solmanchevich, 75 years old. Hazim Solmanchevich, 43 years old. Himzo Solmanchevich, 65 years old. Ibrahim Solmanchevich, 45 years old. Idris Solmanchevich, 34 years old. Eliza Solmanchevich, 34 years old. Yahya Solmanchevich, 60 years old. Khadija Solmanchevich, 60 years old. Kemal Solmanchevich, 21 years old. Meduhin Solmanchevich, 19 years old. Mevdulin Solmanchevich, 32 years old. Mirzet Solmanchevich, 21 years old. Muhammad Solmanchevich, 36 years old. Nadine Solmanchevich, 19 years old. Nerudin Solmanchevich, 20 years old. Zandina Solmanchevich, 21 years old. Nazir Solmanchevich, 43 years old. Nusret Solmanchevich, 36 years old. Rahman Solmanchevich, 27 years old. Rasid Solmanchevich, 21 years old. Rizo Solmanchevich, 30 years old. Shaban Solmanchevich, 53 years old. Sadiq Solmanchevich, 28 years old. Sadiq Solmanchevich, 31 years old. Salko Solmanchevich, 51 years old. Sedalia Solmanchevich, 38 years old. Sasumdin Solmanchevich, 21 years old. Senad Salmovich, 32 years old. Seval Salmanchovich, 17 years old. Sued Solmanchevich, 17 years old. Salman Solmanchevich, 44 years old. Uzir Solmanchevich, 62 years old. Vahidin Solmanchevich, 19 years old. Ziad Solmanchevich, 31 years old. Amil Sulagich, 19 years old. Mehmed Sulagich, 36 years old. Meho Sulagich, 47 years old. Nirmin Sulagich, 18 years old. Sadik Sulagich, 42 years old. Sakib Sulagich, 44 years old. Vasil Sulagich, 75 years old. Fako Sulakavich, 19 years old. Hamdia Sulagavich, unknown age at passing. Izet Sugagovich, 33 years old. Muhammad Sugagovich, 21 years old.
My name is Sanela Ovnovic. Today I will be reading the names of 100 victims who were murdered during the genocide in Srebrenica. Rejo Suljakovic, 26 years old. Shaban Suljakovic, 54 years old. Hamdija Suljanovic, 31 years old. Hamdija Suljanovic, 35 years old. Idris Suljanovic, 46 years old. Ifet Suljanovic, 60 years old. Idris Suljanovic, 46 years old. Ismet Suljanovic, 62 years old. Nehrudin Suljanovic, 18 years old. Niyazia Suljanovic, 18 years old. Osman Suljanovic, 41 years old. Zikret Suljanovic, 34 years old. Abid Sulic, 45 years old. Adel Sulic, 43 years old. Adil Solic, 49 years old. Ahmed Solic, 59 years old. Alia Solic, 26 years old. Alia Solic, 53 years old. Alia Solic, 55 years old. Alia Solic, 57 years old. Alia Solic, 59 years old. Almir Solic, 17 years old. Amil Solic, 26 years old. Amir Solic, 23 years old. Arif Solic, 48 years old. Asim Solic, 57 years old. Atif Solic, 58 years old. Abdia Solic, 17 years old. Azmir Solic, 19 years old. Bahrudin Solic, 32 years old. Bayro Solic, 40 years old. Bayro Solic, 41 years old. Bayro Solic, 43 years old. Behram Solic, 31 years old. Bekir Solic, 55 years old. Bekto Solic, 38 years old. Bekto Solic, 57 years old. Bido Solic, 44 years old. Chamil Solic, 57 years old. Dahma Solic, 15 years old. Dahma Solic, 56 years old. Damir Solic, 16 years old. Daud Solic, 53 years old. Dedo Solic, 66 years old. Jamal Solic, 55 years old. Javad Solic, 17 years old. Javad Solic, 29 years old. Edhem Solic, 52 years old. Esed Solic, 19 years old. Esed Solic, 33 years old. Ashraf Solic, 26 years old. Fadil Solic, 24 years old. Fahrudin Solic, 22 years old. Fehim Solic, 38 years old. Fehim Solic, 41 years old. Hayro Solic, 33 years old. Hayrudin Solic, 24 years old. Hayrudin Solic, 43 years old. Khalid Solic, 25 years old. Hamdia Solic, 30 years old. Hamdia Solic, 52 years old. Hamid Solic, 33 years old. Hamid Solic, unknown age at death. Hasan Solic, 35 years old. Hasan Solic, 47 years old. Hasan Solic, 54 years old. Hasan Solic, 56 years old. Hasan Solic, 64 years old. Hasib Solic, 27 years old. Hazim Solic, 24 years old. Hussein Solic, 28 years old. Hussein Solic, 57 years old. Idris Solic, 54 years old. Idris Solic, 60 years old. Ismail Solic, 32 years old. Ismet Solic, 45 years old. Ismet Solic, 49 years old. Ismet Solic, 58 years old. Ismet Solic, 67 years old. Izzat Solic, 22 years old. Yasmin Solic, 21 years old. Yusuf Solic, 29 years old. Yusuf Solic, 36 years old. Yusuf Solic, 30 years old. Yusuf Solic, 48 years old. Kadriya Solic, 34 years old. Kadriya Solic, 44 years old. Kasim Solic, 56 years old. Kemal Solic, 18 years old. Kemal Solic, 41 years old. Mehmet Solic, 24 years old. Mehmet Sulic, 40 years old. Meho Sulic, 48 years old. Meho Sulic, 62 years old. Memiş Sulic, 56 years old. Mevludin Sulic, 22 years old. Mevludin Sulic, 32 years old. Mevludin Sulic, 38 years old. Mirsad Sulic, 17 years old. Mirsad Sulic, 20 years old. Mirsad Sulic, 26 years old.